You mentioned criteria of compatibility. Can we elaborate?
This is a core problem that one of the very important reasons for cheating is lack of compatibility. Other reasons also, there can be lack of adjustment with the family. There may be differences of intellectual or cultural type or ideological type, but this is one of the important elements. And when we talk of compatibility, we look at a list of reasons. Let's look at them one by one. One of the most important reasons is the compatibility of masculinity and femininity. That we look out, it's like a jigsaw puzzle, yin and yang. Both have to come together to create a full sphere. And they have to fit together like a jigsaw puzzle. So the masculinity of the man has to be compatible with the femininity of the woman, and the masculinity of the woman with the femininity of men. If there is a very high difference in masculinity or femininity, that can create compatibility issues. That both are very masculine, both are very feminine, of a type that they don't get together. You can have any kind of combination, but one important parameter of compatibility is the jigsaw puzzle fitting of masculinity and femininity. And this is not a simple thing. It is not that the weak wants a strong, or strong wants the strong, or the weak wants the weak. All combinations happen between people. And therefore, it's very necessary at an individual level, case to case basis, look at the compatibility in terms of masculinity and femininity. Second is the compatibility of version, the version of the personality, whether it's introversion or extroversion. I can remember a famous actress of Pakistan. I won't name her, but her videos are there on YouTube. She got divorced after the children got married. And that was late 50s, early 60s. And Pakistan, by that standard, is not a very liberal country like UK or USA. So it was quite a news there. And she was asked, why you divorced? And she said, it was a mistake of compatibility. That often in your youth, you like something unlike you. She said, I was very lively and gregarious, and I wanted somebody very serious and stable, and he wanted somebody gregarious and lively, but very soon I started finding him to be boring and dry, and he started finding me to be shallow and without depth. So what we thought before marriage and how we started looking at each other after marriage were two different things. And then she was probably waiting for children's marriage or something. It was very late divorce. And some people just get fed up. We can look at Bill Gates, a very late divorce with his wife, that probably she got fed up with his adventures. So that can be one. So version is very important. That do you really want somebody extroverted or introverted or ambiverted? It's very important criteria of compatibility. Then intellectual getting together. There is no way this can be put aside. If intellectually people are two different things, it's very difficult for them to be compatible. Very few would like somebody drastically intellectually different than them. Because then you feel you're just not being understood and you're talking in two different orbits. Then we have the ideological component, left and right. Very difficult for people from left and right to get together. It's good to say that diversity of views will bring about a fermentation and a churning and something good will come out, but usually you get angry and you don't want it after some time. Then we have the aesthetic orientation. Somebody can look very crude and dirty to somebody. and somebody wants to be very aesthetic, very lively. Then we have the sexual orientation, very important criteria. Then we have the economic and the cultural compatibility. What kind of economic and cultural situation you have been brought up. And very important point here is that there is no getting away from our childhood. You always feel at home at something which resembles what you saw in the childhood. There's a different kind of feeling of being at home, of knowing something which has always been known.
Yes.
It's a very different kind of feeling. And I have been told this by many people. I'll give two examples of this for compatibility. One girl, she married quite up in wealth terms. She came from a family which was, let's say, upper middle class, got married in an upper class family. And because of that, she had to constantly adjust herself, and she would always feel that this is not me. Because their ways of living were very different from her ways of living. What she experienced for first 22 years of life and what she had to put up later on are two different things. And after midlife, she again found somebody who resembled something, the type of man that she had seen in her early childhood. Second example of, there was a famous example without going into names. There was a DIG of police. He had fallen in love with a police constable who was a woman. And it was a scandal in the police department. Because if you look at the positions, money, power, education, radically different. Somebody who has passed IPS, so few people can do. Coming with a background of IIT and IIM and then going into IPS. And falling in love with a person who is just 12th pass. And very different from anything that he lives with the kind of people he lives. Now the point was, she resembled the type of women he had seen in his childhood.
Okay.
And that made him feel at home in a very different way. And he could not also articulate why he is falling. Because he could have got any beautiful call girl or any beautiful woman by giving money, he get plenty of it. But he fell here because the compatibility factor with his own wife was not there. The moment he became an IPS, because of that, IIT, IIM and IPS, he married in a very wealthy family. And his wife, for no fault of hers, was a very different person than the woman he had seen in his childhood. And at some level, he would never find himself at home. So that's also a very important criteria of compatibility of what kind of women you have seen early in life.
Yeah.
Another important criteria with the psychoanalytic is our search for our parents.
Yeah.
That either we look for somebody like them, if we are angry, then somebody unlike them, as opposite as possible, or an ideal version of them. These are the three things which we look out for. Exactly like them, ideal version of them, or opposite to them. In either case, the reference is still the same.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that also is a very important criteria. Then we have this whole world of fantasies. That what is the fantasy world of the person? And is it matching with the fantasy world of the other or the family? Then we look at the stress handling capability, because life will be in ups and downs, difficult times will come. And last will be evolution, that both persons are in evolution. Despite everything done right at the beginning, you can still have differences later on, because both have evolved in very different ways. So long-term compatibility is an extremely difficult thing. And given the kind of lack of knowledge and introspection and self-control and self-reflection that people have, it is, in the long run, if you see, it's more of an exception rather than the rule. So this is very important. Unfortunate part is nobody analyzes compatibility in marriage. The primary thing is all about ticking the boxes of wealth, education, social prestige, occupation, and so on. The softer aspects, the subjective individual inner aspects, many of them unconscious, are not factored in, and therefore later on you have difficulty, and it results more in cheating in India, less in divorce, because divorce is difficult given the social situation, and therefore the cheating rate goes up.
How do we see cheating in India and the Western world?
Very different. In India, usually it is hidden that even when a partner catches another partner, usually does not tell this to anybody except his own parents, or at the most the parents of the partner. So it's all hushed up inside the family. They don't allow it to go out of the family, which is very different than the West, where the communication is far more open. That is one. Two, in the West, cheating results in divorce far more than in India. In India, it results into what we said, separated but not divorced.
Yes.
The third thing that it results in India is, because you can't get out, you do it with revenge. So many extramarital affairs happen in India because of revenge that they want to take on cheating. That one partner has cheated, the other wants revenge, and out of revenge, that partner goes for cheating. And very ironically, they choose men often in taking revenge, not the ones they are compatible, very ironic, but the one who would bring the highest humiliation for the other partner. So often they choose, not always, but I have seen cases, the most ugly, the most fallen, the most poor, the most likely to be rejected, to make a statement to the other, okay, this is who your spouse is going around with. So this is something unique to India. I don't think outside of India, most people will do it. Another form of response to cheating that is different in India and abroad is of self-destruction. When it gets out of control, in the West, you will usually have divorce. In India, you will hear dialogues like, I don't care what happens to you, but I will make sure you are destroyed. So in Gujarati, they will say, Maru je thawanu thai, tane kyaino nahi chodu. So this is a very common thing that you hear, which is very unlike there, which would result more in the legal action in the West. What we see also here is the trading component also comes in. Now, especially, as we discussed before, the trading difficulty comes in, which is not so much in the West. Like in the West, even the marriages are far more accommodative of individualism than India, where the whole family is upon the couple. The couple is not separate. In the West, the couple is separate, and that's a very different situation where the cheating may or may not happen. In India, it's a very different situation. And gender plays a role. In India, it's easier for the man to cheat than woman, because the woman usually is with the family members.
Yes.
Or at home. So the free time, the anonymity is less. So these are some of the differences. Now, as we said before, that we are caught in that no man's land of the Puritan marriage system and the Puritan liberal system. We are somewhere in between. And therefore, we can neither say goodbye to the system nor observe the do's and don'ts of the system. So we are caught in a very difficult situation. what is the way out? That question comes up.
Yeah.
And what we see is that neither of the models which we see is actually sustainable. If you look at the West of pure individualism, you can see how the birth rates have fallen and how they are getting people from other countries. Imagine a situation, every country was the Western society. Where will you get people from? Essentially, you are looking at the whole decimation of the race. So that liberal individual way of living ultimately will lead to the decimation of the race, because given a choice, nobody will want to take the responsibility of a child. It's a 25-year project. It's a work of sacrifice. His life starts and your life ends. Who is going to do that? So given a choice, everyone will say goodbye to responsibility. And that will be the decimation of the race. So what we see is that some sort of cultural pluralism has to be worked out, so that people find the types of groups with do's and don'ts which are compatible to them. And some majority is put in a traditional setup which will keep the race sustainably going. So this is how we possibly going forward, the solution can be, and that will reduce this problem to a great extent. I don't think the problem can be erased completely. It can be brought down to more manageable levels, not having it as an epidemic as we see it now.
Yeah. And how does psychoanalysis deal with the cases of cheating?
Very different situations you get. Let me say situation one. Both people have a personality disorder, very common. They come for counseling or therapy, and both of them have a personality disorder, both complain of cheating or one complains of cheating. And the way forward there is both of them have to get into individual therapy to look at their personality disorders, and then we can look at the interpersonal problems. That is one. Second is of catharsis. That anger is pent up, and because the anger is not released, you get into cheating to seek revenge. So in those situations, we get into catharsis and release of anger. Third situation, not finding oneself at home. That is where one has to really go back and get in touch with people one saw in the childhood without getting involved in a romantic sense, and fulfill one's desire to be with people of that type one is comfortable with. The fourth category is we deal with the narcissism, sociopathy, or perversion. And when they are dealt with, automatically the cheating component goes down. The fifth is about compatibility and communication. That there is misunderstanding and we try to bridge the gap by analysis. The sixth is related to the midlife crisis, where we play a very big role. That if the midlife crisis is explained and mourning and catharsis is undertaken, many of the problems can be reduced. And the seventh is in extreme cases where there is no way of keeping them together, psychoanalysis actually will push for a separation. So it's like we are substituting cheating with divorce. So these are the broad 7 ways in which we deal with cases of cheating. Either somebody comes because he is cheating or somebody comes because the partner is cheating. And then there are the miscellaneous type where we go case by case, but these 7 are very distinct categories of volume cases that come to us.
Okay. Unsettling but refreshing. It opens up an area society should deliberate upon. See you again. Namaste.
Namaste.